Tara Calico was last seen riding her bike along Highway 47 just south of Berlin near mile marker 15. It was a bike ride that she did almost every single day. And on the morning of her disappearance, she told her mom, "If I'm not back by noon, come look for me." It's been 30 years and she hasn't been seen since.
Good afternoon and welcome to True Crime Mysteries. If you're new to the channel, hello and welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. As always, if you could give this video a like and comment with your thoughts down below, that would be much appreciated as it helps the channel to grow. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and click that red button because I make more content like this, and hit the little bell icon so that you get notified when I post because I'm bad at keeping a regular schedule. Today, we're discussing the mysterious disappearance of Tara Calico. Let's get into it. Tara Calico's story is one that you've likely heard in some form. Her disappearance drew a wave of media attention and speculation and became a cautionary tale for young women everywhere. She has now been missing for 33 years and her cold case continues to haunt law enforcement. There is evidence to suggest her disappearance holds many secrets, and more than one person knows what happened to Tara Calico. The beginning. Tara Lee Calico was born on February 28, 1969 in New Mexico to parents David and Patty Calico. Tara had 5 siblings and her parents separated when she was little. Her mother remarried and she moved with Patty and her new husband John Dole to Belen, a nearby suburb of New Mexico where the family settled. Tara was described as organized, fiercely independent, and outgoing. Tara had always been a high-energy, athletic child that had followed her into adulthood, with Tara being extremely outdoorsy and adventurous, and was always down for a hike or a bike ride. She had excelled in high school and always had an easy time making friends. After high school, Tara enrolled at the University of New Mexico and decided to study psychology, where in her first year she maintained a 3.9 GPA. She had always been fascinated with psychology and loved learning about people. Tara had been dating a former high school classmate, Jack Cole, and the two had a relaxed and enjoyable relationship filled with adventures. Jack kept up with Tara's active lifestyle and the two got along well. Between school, her friends, exercise, and her job, Tara had always made sure she had a good balance and was able to keep up on all the things she needed in life. Her disappearance. In the early morning hours on September 20th, 1988, the 19-year-old got her things ready for the day. Tara was only a few weeks into her second year at UNM and was getting ready for her daily bike ride. Tara still lived at home and she often did a 36-mile bike ride along Highway 47 to the train tracks and back with her mother. However, Patty didn't go with Tara on this morning. Tara left her home at 9:30 a.m. and set out. Tara had been riding her mother's bike, a neon pink Huffy mountain bike, as her own bike had gotten a flat tire a few days previous. Tara had asked Patty to come get her in the car if she wasn't home by noon, as she had a tennis date with her boyfriend Jack, and then she had to go to class at 3:30. Tara rode with a Walkman playing with headphones. Before she left, she had asked her mom to rewind 2 tapes for her. One was a band called Boston. Side note, who remembers the tediousness of rewinding cassettes so you could listen to them again, or fast-forwarding through songs in an album to get to the good ones, or even worse, your Walkman shredding your favorite tape? Patty waited, and when Tara didn't return, she set out to go grab her, as she and Tara had already planned. The route they biked was pretty much a straight shot, and Patty grew increasingly concerned when she got to the train tracks and didn't see any sign of Tara. Patty called around to local hospitals to see if maybe she'd had an accident and had possibly been admitted. When it was determined that Tara wasn't at the hospital, Patty rounded up a few family friends to help her search for the missing woman. When the group could find no trace of Tara, Patty called the police. A police search began, but nothing was found that day. The search was halted for the night and resumed in the morning, but during the break, a heavy rain came through and may have washed away critical evidence. The search resumed at daylight, and police noticed a set of tire tracks that appeared to look like a bike had veered off the road suddenly about 100 yards off the highway. Witnesses said they saw Tara riding northbound on the highway towards her home at around 11:30, the day she went missing, only 2 miles away from home. Another witness said that she saw a 1953 Ford pickup truck that was dirty white or light gray in color, with a white homemade shell in the back, following closely behind her driving on the shoulder. They noted that they could see Tara had headphones on and seemed oblivious to the truck behind her. A third witness said that they'd driven past Tara remembering seeing her biking, and they also saw a white truck, and they were able to see that the truck held multiple occupants in the vehicle. Officers searched the area around the bike tire tracks and noted that they saw several footprints in the soft earth. Officers followed the footprints and made a discovery: Tara's tape from her Walkman and broken pieces of plastic that had likely come from her Walkman, along with several empty beer cans. They found the rest of Tara's Walkman at the John F. Kennedy campground, 19 miles away from the highway. The campground sits at the base of the Manzano Mountains, a remote and unpopulated area. With this new evidence, it was clear this wasn't an accident, and it was looking more and more that Tara had been abducted. After the discovery of the tape and pieces of Tara's Walkman, police efforts doubled, but Patty claimed that the efforts of local law enforcement were mixed. She said that one particular officer would call her often with new gruesome possible angles, including being a sacrifice as part of a satanic cult ritual, according to Patty. This was both widely inappropriate and traumatizing for the mother. That same officer also told a reporter that Tara was likely a runaway. Shortly after making the statement, the detective in question was terminated, and Belen PD office called the behavior uncalled and was not part of their protocol. Officers collected a bunch of evidence found on the side of the highway, which included a water bottle, a patch of disturbed dirt, and investigated 3 men that had been seen drinking beer on the back of a pickup truck near the campground, and were able to eliminate all of them from the case. The disappearance shocked the area. How did a woman go missing in broad daylight with several witnesses having seen her, and no one was able to find such a unique vehicle that also contained multiple people? Based on witnesses' testimony, detectives released 2 police sketches of the man in the white truck. The driver was described as older, in his late 30s to mid-40s, Caucasian with red hair, and someone also stated that they saw him with a lot of wrinkles around his temple. The witnesses said that the other man was described as younger, Caucasian, and male. They couldn't really see him because he was shielded from view. Despite an extensive search on land and by helicopter, the search ended on September 27th. Detectives continued the investigation, but without any further leads, the case eventually went cold. The Polaroid. Over a year later, on June 15th, 1989, 1,700 miles away in Port St. Joe, Florida, a woman found a Polaroid picture in an empty parking space in a parking lot at a convenience store. The photograph showed an unidentified boy and girl bound, with black tape over their mouths, in the back of a van. Prior to the woman finding the picture, witnesses said that a white Toyota van had been parked there for some time. The woman called local law enforcement, who passed the photo off to the FBI. The FBI decided to put the photograph in the media in the area, and relatives of Patty called her saying the young woman in the Polaroid looked like Tara. Patty flew down to Florida to look at the picture in person, and concluded that the woman bore a striking resemblance to her daughter. What solidified her belief was a scar on the woman's leg. Tara had gotten into a car accident as a child and had a scar on her leg where there was also a mark on the young woman's leg in the picture. Also visible in the photo was a copy of My Sweet Adrena by V.C. Andrews, which was one of Tara's favorite books and author. The photograph was examined by multiple agencies, but none of them definitively concluded the woman was Tara. There was a partial phone number seen on the spine of the novel, but some of the numbers were unreadable, and it didn't lead to any leads. The Los Alamos National Laboratory didn't believe it was her, where Scotland Yard determined it was her. After this, Patty lost hope in the FBI and law enforcement in general. Patty expressed disappointment and a lack of trust with various law enforcement agencies responsible for investigating Tara's disappearance. Patty passed in 2006, never knowing what happened to her daughter. 2 more photos were found and examined, but it was determined that they likely also weren't connected to Tara. The first photo was found in Montecito, California at a construction site. It was a blurry photo of a woman's face with a taped mouth and a similar hairline to Tara, according to Patty. The woman had a cowlick at the right temple and also had a lazy pupil in one eye like Tara. There was also a light blue striped fabric behind the woman, similar to the fabric of the pillow seen in the van from the first photo. Patty believed it was Tara, however the Polaroid film it was taken on was not available until 1989. The second photo was a woman on an Amtrak train with a man sitting next to her, with more gauze wrapped around her mouth and wearing black framed glasses. This Polaroid film was not available until February 1990. Patty is not sure if this one could be Tara, but the man's face is included with the suspect's composites. Even decades later, none of the women or the boy from the photo have been identified. The alleged cover-up. A Freedom of Information request was put in for the police records pertaining to Tara Calico at the Valencia Sheriff's Department office. When they received the documents, they were in a state of chaos. Files were disorganized, not cataloged properly, some files seemed to be missing documents, and witness audio recordings that were logged were no longer in there. On September 20th, 2008, an article published by the Valencia County News Bulletin stated that the Sheriff of Valencia County, Rene Rivera, knew what happened to Tara, including the identity of the people who committed the kidnapping. The article alleged that Rivera had received information and that the teens had panicked and murdered Tara, and their parents helped cover it up. Rivera has never released any evidence to support this claim, and he has stated that until a body is found, he cannot make an arrest. In October 2013, a 6-person task force was put together to re-examine the case, but no new evidence was uncovered during that investigation. In 2019, the FBI announced a $20,000 reward for precise details that would lead to the recovery of Tara or her remains. Several witnesses believe that the red-headed man they saw in the old white truck was not an older man, but bore a striking resemblance to local man Lawrence Romero, Jr. His father, Lawrence Romero Sr., had been the sheriff responsible for the investigation into the disappearance of Tara Calico. One of the witnesses had said that she had been flipping through a newspaper and saw an obituary announcement and had recognized the man in the photo. She said that the exact photo that had been used for the obituary was the same photo that she had picked out of the photo lineup as the closest match. According to local sources, the sheriff's department was known to be corrupt, and it is believed that Tara's death was one of many cover-ups. One source alleged that they were friends with Lawrence Jr., Scott Cunningham, and Charlie Hooton. He said that the group were heavy users of drugs and alcohol and described the group as pretty wild and were known to get into trouble. He also said that he had walked in on the men discussing what to do about Tara's body. Lawrence Romero Sr. died in 2011, and his son had died a few years previous to him. In 2013, a man called into the sheriff's department wanting to make a deathbed confession. Henry Brown was sick and he knew he didn't have much time left on this earth and wanted to get something off of his chest. He had said that he went to the trailer home of Lawrence Romero Jr. and said that they had dug out a makeshift basement underneath the trailer, which was used to smoke pot and drink in. He said that shortly after Tara's disappearance, he went into the basement and saw the body of a young woman wrapped in a blue tarp. He said that Romero, along with 2 other men, had discussed plans of burying her in that basement. He went on to say that Romero told him that they had been waiting for Tara, and Romero had laughed and said that the men had been harassing her from their truck. They said that they purposely hit her off her bike and grabbed her and the bike before taking her out to the woods. He said that the men sexually assaulted her and then murdered her. Initially, they had left her body near where she had been murdered, but when the investigation got bigger, they went back and took her body back to Romero Jr.'s trailer. They said that they dumped the bike, and no one ever spoke of it again. Sheriff Deputy Frank Mathola took the statement, but it is not among the other documents in the file. Another man, Donald Dutch, came forward with an eerily similar story, but again, no records of the confession or subsequent investigation are available. Though these are suspicious claims, it is important to remember that this didn't come from official documentation. These are alleged statements that the authorities do not find credible, though it does call into question some of the odd tactics used by local law enforcement, the harassment that Patty described from a particular officer, as well as the state that the police files had been in addition to the missing records. The FBI made a statement in 2019 saying, "Tara had her entire future ahead of her when she vanished. Law enforcement has never given up the search for this young lady, checking out numerous tips and conducting countless interviews over the course of more than 30 years. But it's time for someone to come forward and help us bring Tara home." Michelle Dole continues to keep her sister's cold case in the media, continuing to give interviews, check back in with law enforcement, and stay updated on any new leads. If anyone knows anything about Tara's disappearance, they are encouraged to contact any local FBI office. Well, that's going to be it for this video. As always, please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, and subscribe for more if you haven't already. If you've done all that and want to support me in the channel, we have channel membership as well as Patreon to get early access, members-only content, and more. We also have merch and other goodies in the description box below, as well as links to all my socials. But until then, I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.